17 minutes to 9 a.m. Central African time. Welcome back. You are tuned into Salam Media. This is, of course, News and Views. Zai Jadwit standing in for Salam Media, for Julie Ali, rather. Of course, as the country it goes through its alternating stages of stage 4 and stage 3 load shedding, KFC has temporarily closed some of its outlets in South Africa due to load shedding as it struggles with supplier problems. While many of its restaurants have generators, its suppliers are not able to provide products due to the power outages. To discuss this further, we are now joined on the line by Chief Economist Dawie Ruud. He is, of course, the Chief Economist at Efficient Group. Good morning and welcome to the show.
Good morning to you. Thank you.
All right, so this, of course, being the final edition of the show for 2022. Not a great topic to discuss in the last show, but of course, load shedding is here. And that is something that we're going to be taking with us into 2023. Rather unfortunate.
Yes, indeed so. Obviously, you refer to KFC, and we can all see that people make use of KFC, so the public can take note of this, and it is on the front pages of the newspapers, KFC. But, this is a problem right through the economy. We don't necessarily see disruptions on supply chains, disruptions at factories, for example, or at mines or at other businesses, because that is not as much in the public domain. But this is pretty much what is going on in the South African economy. So what KFC is experiencing at the moment is what most other businesses are also experiencing in the economy. And that means that the economy simply cannot function properly. And I've calculated that the South African economy simply cannot grow faster than at best 1.5% sustainably, because we do not have enough electricity. And that will remain with us for probably for many years to come. And to put that in perspective, if the economy grows at 1.5% with the population also growing at 1.5%, we're not making any progress. And that is no wonder then that unemployment keeps on going up or remains high. Poverty keeps on going up. And that will also stay with us for a very long time until we can get the economy to grow. But I'm afraid that is unlikely to happen until after the elections, at least, because our major problem in South Africa is actually not the economy. It is political leadership. We have the wrong macroeconomic policies. We've got weak political leadership. We've got politicians that are far more concerned about what's going on in the parties or winning the elections and not really concerned about things like growing the economy and putting the right policies in place. So I think the only way that we can really fix our economic problems is to fix our political problems first. And for that, we'll have to wait another year and a half at least.
Yeah, Mr. Ruud, it's interesting that you pick up on the aspect of politics or the political aspect of this.
Yeah.
And I think that is something I would like to discuss with you further in a few moments. But before that, something interesting that you noted was that the supply chain disruptions are not necessarily something ordinary South Africans see on a daily basis behind the scenes of load shedding. But now, this seems to be the case. The first major chain to announce that they are being impacted by supply chain disruptions, of course, as a result of load shedding. Just how serious does this tell us that the situation is now with this now coming to the fore? We always understood that load shedding was extremely detrimental to the economy. We understood that it was impacting businesses, but now we've got this bold, this sort of bold signal or message coming to the fore, right?
Yeah. How serious is it? It is very serious. As an economist, what I do, and most other economists, what they do, we have to make predictions or estimates on what we think economic growth is going to be like. Or sometimes just before economic data is released, we will go over the data and pencil what our expectations are, pencil that down in terms of economic growth, as an example. And I can tell you one reliable indicator of economic growth is the supply of electricity. So if you can just look at the supply of electricity in the country and use that as a proxy of economic growth, then you're going to be very close to your estimates on economic growth. So there's a huge and a direct impact on the South African economy when we fall into these various stages of load shedding that we're currently experiencing. And it seems to me as if it could be getting worse. It seems to me as if at the beginning of the year we had load shedding every now and again. By the end of this year, it was a very much more frequent occurrence. And it seems to me we're going to see more of this in 2023. And what really concerns me is that Andre de Ruyter resigned at Eskom now. They're looking for somebody else. And there's going to be huge pressure on whoever's going to take over there to run the generation capacity of Eskom as hard as possible before the elections. And then after the elections, the whole thing is going to collapse. That's my big concern. I think the Ruyter did an excellent job under extremely difficult circumstances, and it's not a good thing for South Africa to lose the captain in the middle of a storm. And this is indeed where we are at the moment. Eskom will be with us, and it will have a significant negative impact on the economy for many, many years to come still. And it could get worse. That concerns me.
Do you perhaps foresee big businesses, or more big businesses rather, beginning to at least work under reduced operations? Of course, KFC being one of those to announce that many of the items on their menu will be unavailable, and then, of course, many of their stores also closing. Do you foresee this will affect other industries as well? And we're unlikely. It's unlikely that this will be the last business to do so.
Without a doubt, we've seen it. Like I've said, we know KFC because it's in the public's face all the time. But it has been happening to many other businesses for a long time already. I know, for example, in agriculture. Agriculture depends on electricity as well, quite a lot, especially when you talk about the sophisticated kind of agriculture that we have in South Africa. The same goes for mining. If you don't have enough electricity, then you simply do not take a chance in opening up a mine shaft, as an example, because you don't have the guarantee of electricity. Something else is, especially in metalworks and heavy industry, you cannot start and switch on and off an aluminium smelter, as an example. So those kind of industries have been affected by a lack of electricity for a long time. There is a bit of a good news, however, and that is that we're really getting good at using electricity in South Africa. Anything that is expensive or anything that is scarce is much more valued, and that's what's been happening for the past 10, 20 years in South Africa. And today we use electricity much more sparingly. Let's call it electricity productivity improved quite dramatically in South Africa. And today we use about 80% of what we used to use about 20 years ago to produce of electricity to produce 1 unit of GDP. So there's a bit of a silver lining, but without a doubt, many businesses already adapted to the reality of electricity shortages in the country, and that inevitably means that lower economic growth will be the result.
All right. I think before I let you go, I just want to pick up on the issue of the political aspect of this, which you mentioned earlier on in the interview.
Yeah.
And I think it's interesting that you note that for at least the next 1.5 years, of course, that's the interim between now and the next elections. But I think a lot of political analysts are predicting that coalition politics is going to come to the fore in 2024.
Yeah.
Do you think this might do you think this could worsen the economic situation in the country with all the internal squabbles that come around with coalition politics?
Yeah, capital is a coward. Capital doesn't like uncertainty. And during times of political change, there's always a degree of uncertainty. And capital simply going to sit on their hands and say, listen, I'm going to wait and see what's going to happen before I commit to the country. So I think for at least until the next general election, we're not going to see much investment in South Africa exactly because of the possibility of political change. Then, of course, political change in itself can be quite disruptive. We know we're probably going to go into coalition governments after the next general election. And what's that coalition going to look like? Is it going to be a business-friendly coalition, or is it going to be a business-hostile coalition or government like what we have currently? And capital will simply wait and see what's going to happen. So that, I think, is the reality that we are facing at the moment for the next 1.5 years. That business or capital is not going to do much. And thereafter, it really depends on what the government is going to look like before capital decides whether they're going to commit to South Africa or not. At the moment, capital is certainly saying, listen, we're sitting and waiting. We're kicking the can down the road because we don't know what is going to happen. And as long as we don't know, we don't want to commit.
All right, I think that's where we'll leave it for this morning. Thank you so much for your time. Do enjoy your holidays further.
Thank you very much. Have a good day.
That was Davi Ruud, the chief economist at the Efficient Group, bringing us up to 7 minutes before 9. Please do stay tuned.